lot of stuff, all I can say. Specifically, what we talked about, I don't know. However, if there's anyone on the phone or in this room who had any questions from last week, I'd be most appreciative if you would raise them. Otherwise, I'm probably going to talk about the chaos in this state, in the state of this earth. I was listening at people talk about the confusion that surrounds the current primary period. And it dawned on me that the confusion should not be something that caught us by surprise, because it is simply reflective of the confusion in the whole world. And the root of the confusion, as is with the root of anything, you find it in a more chaotic state. And when certain things, when you begin to see certain signs, and you understand at least an inkling of the spiritual, you're then more able to ascertain what's actually going on. I thought it was strange when I first heard that Pope Francis was coming back to this part of the world, and he's in Cuba.
Oh, right,
yeah. But I found it more fascinating when I found out that he was meeting with the leader of the Christian Orthodox Church there in Cuba. So the Orthodox Christian Church broke in 1054, I believe it was.
Mm.
They separated. They've never been together since 1054.
1,000 years, yeah.
Yeah.
First meeting in 1,000 years.
So with that, understanding this, it should help us to see how things are playing out, not just on the world stage in terms of the natural world, but spiritually as well. What I mean by that is this: the break between the two came as a result of doctrinal differences. And the doctrinal differences were based upon the nature, the idolatry that's more connected to Catholicism than to the Orthodox Church. And the hierarchy had issues with each other. And with that split taking place and now coming back together, it is my contention that they are coming back together based upon the terms laid out by the Catholic Church. And with that being said, while it looks benign on the surface, when you look at the other realm, the forces of chaos are reconnecting in order to maintain the power that they have in this world structure. You understand? Am I making sense to you? And it's being played out on the stage of all places in the Western Hemisphere. The separation came about, as I said, because of the doctrinal differences. The question is whether or not the doctrinal differences have been resolved, or whether they're coming together based on a common interest, and the common interest is survival. because there is a huge exodus taking place when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to religion, period. That's an exodus that's in progress now. And people believe that there is an exodus because the world is becoming more secular, and based upon their definition of secular, I agree with them, because to them meaning the religions, secular means that you don't accept Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. It doesn't mean that you don't believe in that which is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
You see, by virtue of the way they use the word secular. If you say that you believe in those things that are spiritual, then you make noise with the bag.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You pretend nobody noticed.
Right. If you
I won't pretend.
Get it over with.
if you believe in something spiritual, then you are considered a heretic or a heathen. If you don't have a labeled religious belief. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, why do you laugh?
Because it means we consider heathens.
Let's not figure that out. If you, and I believe that people do believe in a quote-unquote higher power, a higher existence, a spiritual existence, but they just don't believe in the labels because of the many disappointments that has taken place. And if the forces, if the adversarial forces are reuniting based upon common interests, then believe you me that the enlightened ones are also coming together. And it's not as noticeable because it is not a quote-unquote newsworthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm saying this is because I firmly believe that you have to be able to discern the signs of the times. And I also firmly believe that that is not something that just anyone can do. It has to be a deep-seated desire to understand the essence of what we deem the other world, which means the spiritual realm. Then you're more able to see what's taking place. Also, if you really want to see it, you kind of sort of have to disconnect you have to totally disconnect really from the doctrines of religions. And I didn't realize it at the time, but when I made this statement, just read that which is in the red as opposed to all the rest of it. If we can get that, we'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
What I began to understand, have begun to understand, is that all the stuff that surrounds what we call the quote-unquote red are opinions. And they relate to the red, some of it does, but the rest of it is opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been made to feel guilty if we question whether those opinions are real.
Right.
And the way we've been made to feel guilty is by virtue of being taught or indoctrinated with the thoughts that every bit of it is the Word of God. And if we truly believe that every bit of it is the word of God, then not only should homosexuals be stoned, but adulterers should be stoned, and people who disobey their parents should be stoned. You know, I mean, you can go down the list of who should be stoned. So we either believe it or we don't. Now, the Christian justification for that is Jesus came to fulfill the law, not to change it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he freed us from that. Well, if he came to fulfill it, not to change it, or not to destroy it, then how can you say that the reason we don't stone people who just honor their parents is because of what Jesus did, but at the same time you want to stone a homosexual? That doesn't make sense to me. That does not balance to me. And the other part of it is, if all these things that have been deemed despicable by doctrines are really despicable, then why is it that Jesus never spoke concerning them? And the things that he spoke in reference to them are totally different than what we have been taught. And them of which I speak are some of the laws, and the laws that he spoke in reference to are the Ten Commandments. And the law of Moses is the Ten Commandments, isn't it? That's what he talked about, the law of Moses. So in order to incorporate all that other stuff under the head in the law of Moses, the Catholic Church taught that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. That's not real at all. But that's in order to bring all of the Levitical law and everything else under the heading of the law of Moses, because that's what Jesus came to fulfill. Am I making sense? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to be extremely clear in our understanding of it. The other way that it was done is to teach us to take a text and preach from a text, as opposed to teaching from a portion of Scripture. If you take a text, then you don't have to necessarily have support in Scripture for that text. The text the things that support the text are the things that happen in the world today, in this earth. What I mean by that is, listen to someone take a text and see them, they leave that text and start talking about what was in the news, as opposed to undergirding it with other Scripture. Yeah.
When I did it, it didn't feel right.
And that's because it wasn't right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it just didn't feel right. And I'm like,
It is my undoing within the framework of organized religion was when I would take a text, but do a background on the text and search other scriptures to see if they supported the text that I was taking, and readily began to see that this is not the way it's supposed to be done. So
it's easier to take it out of context, too.
yeah, absolutely. And I've
It's so
used,
isolated.
I've used all those words to say exactly what she just said in one sentence. It is extremely, it makes it, that is the reason, if you don't make it doing anything else, you can preach. Because no one is going to question you. Because this is what God told me. It's what, you know.
only George.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's the source of the chaos, and also that is the picture of the forces of chaos being reunited in order to prepare for the onslaught or the influx, I should say better than onslaught, the influx of enlightenment.
Well, I think it is chaotic when, people like Ted Cruz can stand and say, let's carpet bomb them, let's kill them, let's do it, and the evangelicals just back him. It's just
And that's,
crazy.
but it's necessary. It is very, very necessary. Why?
I can understand that. It's no different than, what I find fascinating is they didn't learn when they backed Bush. Here we go again. But it's that distinction between nurturing parent, father, and stern father. Abortion, it's an innocent life. You commit evil in the world, justice.
Yeah.
That's how they can rationalize it. And they have no connection to the reality of what that statement implies. The death, the slaughtering of children, whatever. They don't have any connection to it, so I understand it. So, you gotta, try to understand why people think they're standing on truth when they say what they say, but
And the other part of
that's my sense of it.
they don't have a visual sense of it, of what's taking place. They don't
Yeah,
have a
that's
visual,
what-
I mean, think about it. I'm gonna throw this out to you. Since you brought up Ted Cruz, in South Carolina, the Republicans could access the African American vote. But if they did it, they know that they would lose the white vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask yourself, how would they access African Americans, the African American vote? Simply by talking about the injustices that has been committed, by talking about the need for a livable wage, talking about institutional racism. If those things are discussed in a meaningful way, that gives access, of course some other things, but that gives access to the African American vote, okay? So why is it they won't do that? You have to be a racist in order to win South Carolina. You cannot say anything positive about an African American if you want to win South Carolina in the Republican Party. Think about it. If Kasich, with his quote-unquote moderate views, were to talk about the things that I just said, he could access the African American vote. I didn't say he could get it. He has access to it. But if he has access to that, all the doors to the Caucasians have been closed in his face. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So you have to be a racist in order, you have to exhibit racism in order to get the Republican nomination from South Carolina, or to get access.
Really wordsmith the thing, to dance between those things.
And you're right, and I'm going somewhere with this, because this in itself shows us the real chaos. See, we talked about how it is necessary for everything to be exposed, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the reasons I have tremendous respect for Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. I didn't say I believe in what they say,
Right.
but I have respect for them because they are the source of exposure. They are exposing what has been hidden and what has been desired to be kept hidden. They are the ones who is actually the conscience of pretty much predominantly white America. the House of Representatives. The Congressional Black Caucus is no different than Donald Trump.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is because they know that when the census was done and the Republicans gerrymandered the districts, they did not file suit to challenge it, which meant that for 10 years, the Republicans would be in charge of the House because they drew safe seats. So the question is, why is it that they did not challenge it? Because the Republicans made sure their seats were safe too. It's about them being reelected. It's not about them doing anything for the rank and file. I had tremendous respect for Meeks out of New York once I heard him speak. He said that in the past, as John Lewis, he was quoting referring to John Lewis, how Hillary was always there and Bernie Sanders wasn't in the past. And we have to look at that and take that into consideration. Well, my question is, if we have to take the past into consideration, then let's talk about the past where she called black males predators, where she called them incompassionate, where she called them people without feelings, where she said that we had to bring them to heal. So let's deal with that past. But when you deal with that past, what comes out is where they say, we sorry, they ask for forgiveness for that. I can forgive you, but I don't have to put you back in to do the same thing. So these are the things that, this is the chaos that's taking place. And please understand something, chaos does not break down on racial lines. Chaos does not break down on party lines. Chaos breaks down on spiritual lines.
Okay.
It's not about race, it's not about political beliefs, it's not about parties, it's not about constitutionality of things, it's about the spiritual.
Okay.
It's about the spiritual. And
What about your God-given right to vote?
the God who gave you that right is the one who's in charge of America. And they are in charge of the House. That's the God who gave you that right. And you did not, now that may sound funny on the surface, right? But think about this. When, until after slavery, we didn't have a right to vote, right? So who gave us that right to vote? All white Congress, right?
Who
Richard,
gave
Richard.
them the right to vote? The Constitution.
Well, let me go. I'm not there. Listen where I'm going.
We'll sit by
Listen
the
where I'm
feet.
going. Yeah, let's go. Then you have a God-given right to vote. So who's the God that gave it to you?
Yeah,
That's where I'm going.
yeah.
Who's the God that gave it to you? There's nothing in the scripture that says you got a right to vote. So if it's your God-given right, who's the God that gave it to you?
Wow.
That's the source of the chaos.
Mm.
And as long as you can make chaos appear to be peaceful, or you can, in your chaotic ways, appear to be peaceful or a peacemaker, then you can continue to perpetuate the chaos. But when that begins to be exposed, it is more difficult to do that. And now, I don't think people are catching on to what's happening, because it is very difficult to read the signs of the times if you purport to be spiritual but are not. And what I mean by that is this. There is a different essence in this country now than has been in the last couple of years. the different essence in this country when we start talking about chaos. When, and I'm going to use this as an example, okay? When 2 years ago, when Bernie Sanders said that he was going to run, but actually that going into the third year, the first place he came was South Carolina. And nobody ever gave him a chance of winning. So what did they do? They kept everybody out of the race who could possibly challenge Hillary. Everybody. They kept them out of the race. And they laughed at O'Malley and they laughed at Bernie. They squashed O'Malley because of the way he was trying to raise funds. But Bernie did it differently. But he was a joke. But what they did not understand was the undercurrent.
Mm.
And the undercurrent was the essence being changed. See, light does not just function in the spiritual realm, light also functions in this realm. So that the people began, who are following him, are people who are beginning to be enlightened as to the reality of what actually exists in this nation. So that's what I mean when I talk about the essence changing.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, you wouldn't even thought about this.
True.
Wouldn't even thought about it. 6 months before Sanders went to Iowa, Hillary was there.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
Yeah.
Of course, New Hampshire's always been kind to the Clintons. But look what happened.
Mm.
South Carolina gonna be the firewall. Really? It's gonna be a slingshot, but not a firewall. What am I saying? The powers that be, including the Black Caucus, have not discerned the signs of the times. They don't understand the essence of what's happening. Not only are people being enlightened spiritually for the other realm, but the human has to have enlightenment also. And the things that govern the human has to be enlightened about them. And that is one of the reasons when you look at Black Lives Matter, you see a lot of white kids, a lot of black kids. When you see the demonstrations that's taking place against injustices, you see white kids lying in the street, you see black kids. You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It's changing. When you have an editor of a magazine make a statement like when they say, well, this guy made a statement about women voting for Hillary, and because she's a woman. No, one time.
Adam said
This is something different. This is what she said. Women do not vote with their vaginas any more than men vote with their penis.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And she shut it down quick.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear females, white females saying, it doesn't matter to me whether it's a woman or man, black or white, it's your message
Mm-hmm.
that draws me to you. When you hear someone like Madeleine Albright say there's a special place in hell for women who don't support Hillary, and all of a sudden you see all these young white females saying, okay, we'll go to that special place because we're not going to support her. These are the things. When you see a place like Massachusetts, I'm sorry, in New Hampshire, where 75% of the youth support her, him, Bernie Sanders, and you see Bernie Sanders take the female vote like what, 70%, something like that. How does this happen? Because the essence is changing, and people have missed the signs of the time. So what happens is the opportunists come out in support of those who are expected to win. Now, and I haven't forgotten into these. I'm trying to get to a point. Now, understand something. When kids were in the street in the earlier years, they were segregated in the streets. White kids were in the streets for Vietnam. Black kids were in the street for civil rights. That's no longer true. White kids are not in the street about Iraq and Afghanistan. And black kids are not in the streets about Black Lives Matter. Both of them are in the street for the same thing. Injustice on every level.
Mm.
You see where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
So we are, the essence of what's taking place is something that has not been experienced and has not been recognized by the powers that be. And when I speak of the powers that be, I'm not only talking about the Democrat structure, the Republican structure, but I'm also talking about the Congressional Black Caucus. You don't hear from them till they have their little conference thing raising money. And none of them would be where they are if it were not for the Martin Luther Kings and people like us, the us's who were out there in those streets. The last thing I want to say before I get to this is this. John Lewis was not the only one on Edmund Pettus Bridge. Nobody won't say that, but I will. He was not the only one who got beaten on that bridge that day. But he was the only one who parlayed it into becoming a member of the House of Representatives. He wasn't the only one. He's not the only person who has been beaten or killed for the struggle. He ain't the only one out there. Do I respect him? Yes, I do. But when you go beyond the Edmund Pettus Bridge, what happened? Where's his life from that point forward? Headed towards the House of Representatives. So what happened since then? Across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, when there was no danger. Why don't you speak out for stuff like, truly speak out? Stuff like the $15 minimum wage. Why don't you speak out for real about Glass-Steagall, the firewall being torn down between commercial banking and investment banking? Why don't you ask questions like that if you really care about the people who put you where you are?
Mm.
Raise the real questions. I agree with Vangelis. Have an agenda, not an emotional attachment. And those are my words, but that's essentially what he's dealing with. Have an agenda. The emotional attachment to Clinton because he blew a saxophone on Arsenio Hall and then proceeded to put our kids in jail and decimate the African American community.
I've never, excuse me folks, but I have never gotten this, he's the first black president. I've never got it.
Well,
that was emotional, sympathetic, wished for, and then right. And that's an opportunity, I don't know, out of politeness or what, that Bernie Sanders missed the other night in the debate, when he could have nailed Clinton to the floor with that, weren't you standing next to the administration of 19, whatever, she didn't even have to say her name, his name, and the bills that were signed, that undermined.
He had to say that. You want to nail it to the floor? All he had to say was, you're not the one doing a press interview who made the statement that this bill is necessary because of the predators? These kids are predators. They have no emotional feelings. They care about no one, and we must bring them to heel. That's what she said before the camera. So he didn't have to just talk about standing next to. She pushed this. So,
I better go find that one. I didn't hear that one.
so if
You should be running that as an ad here in South Carolina.
Well,
Well, yeah, well, then you read,
between
did
now
you
and the
read the
election.
article from the lady who wrote the new Jim Crow? She was talking about all of that, how Hillary wasn't on the sidelines. She was working to push these things through.
Harry Belafonte, I think, is the one who quoted some of the things that she wrote in reference to
Forget her
that.
name, but anyway.
So, but and honestly, this is not an endorsement or a badgering. This is just the truth. This is just reality of what has taken place, is taking place. Janice.
I didn't have anything profound. I was just wondering, like, how long.
You are profound.
How long support for Hillary would last in the black community, and how people could be so forgetful. And I wonder if the support is the same amongst young blacks, because she made that mistake with the All Lives Matter, when Black Lives Matter activists were in front of her and pressing her with questions. And she didn't handle that well.
Well, in New Hampshire, Black Lives Matter endorsed Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
How long can it happen? This guy in the barbershop here in South Carolina said that the younger generation is not looking at the Clintons from back there. They're looking at what is now and what their desires are, what their expectations are, and who is saying what needs to be said to meet their desires. That's why they're supporting Bernie Sanders. When you go to college campus, whether it be USC or Clemson for that matter, you got a lot of support, student support. Why? I'm going to make college affordable against, this is how I'm going to do it. You see?
Yeah.
I'm going to reduce the debt for those who with student loan, as opposed to this is how I'm going to reduce it. You see? So this is what I believe. This is my personal belief, based upon all the things that I see and have experienced, and the discussions that were entered into last week with some people from back in the day that I used to organize with. This is my belief that there is going to be a tremendous surprise that takes place in this state when the Democratic primary is held. A huge surprise. And the reason I say that is because what part of it I want to say?
All of it.
No, some of that I don't want to. Because, let me put it this way, because of what Ben Jealous said, because of what the caucus did. Now, the Sharptons and the rest of them in that group, the question is, are you going to stand with Ben Jealous, who laid out everything about the reason he's with Bernie Sanders?
When did that happen? I missed that.
Tuesday, I think, Monday or Tuesday. Or are you going to stand with the caucus, who is dancing around the issues and not really supportive of anything that's going to benefit the black community? Are you going to stand with the caucus, who supported the 1994 crime bill? Every one of them voted for it because it was the Clinton bill. Are you going to support the ones who supported NAFTA, that took all the jobs out of Baltimore, out of Detroit, and sent them south of the border? Or are you going to stand with Ben Jealous, who understands TPP is even worse than NAFTA? And Hillary just started talking about she's against it when she got pressed on it, because she understood it in order to be elected. And now she's backing off of it, walking it back, by virtue of saying, well, I looked at TPP and I waited until after I saw the draft, and once I saw it, that's when I did not agree with it, I'm against it. Well, how can we be assured that you won't support it once you get in office? Well, it just depends on the final draft of it, whether or not I will have to make that decision at that time. What does that say? So the question is, who are you going to stand with? This weekend is going to be very interesting. If I'm not mistaken, a group is supposed to be meeting today to make some decisions about the direction they're going in. And the question is, which direction? Now, this is the other part of it that I think that we have missed from a spiritual perspective also. We hear this thing about the black vote. I think like they say 55, but 65% of the Democratic electorate in South Carolina is African American. This is the funny thing. Nobody really fought for the African American vote until Obama came and was running. Nobody cared about us. They took us for granted. Now all of a sudden we's important.
He was trying to.
Yeah. You've been good to the Clintons. Clinton been good to you. We put you in jail. So you get 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
For what?
I mean,
A place to lay your head.
yeah.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
It's true.
decimated the African American community. So all of a sudden, why are we important? Because I believe that somebody, somewhere in this earth began to recognize that nothing is about race, it's about power from the other realm. And the life of the human comes from the other realm. And melanin is the key. And this and all of mankind came into being from the same womb. And the essence of spirituality rests in the East and not in the West. Some people somewhere understood that dark skin is not about race, is a manifestation of a spiritual truth of wisdom that has been confused. And because of that, somebody recognized that even to this day, somebody stated that the highest amount of African genes is found in South Carolina. So that essence is here.
White folks too.
The essence is here. Oh yeah, a lot of white folks that got African genes. The essence is here. You see? And something we began to recognize that essence, the essence of the whole Western Hemisphere, because the difference between being a Jamaican, being a Trinidadian, and an African American is a boat stop.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the whole difference. So that seed had to be sown all over the Western Hemisphere in order for something to manifest. And the darkness covered the deep. And when the darkness covered the deep, what happened? The seed of darkness covered the deep. Covered what? Covered all the chaos. Darkness became the covering for the chaos. And out of this came light. So the seed has been sown all over the world. And out of this seed comes light. And the darkness perceived it not. The darkness, the wisdom, could not understand itself. It did not understand the light, because light is the understanding of wisdom. Light is bringing order to what appears to be confusion. This is what's taking place. We are beginning to see the sprouting of the tree of life in our midst. That's what we're beginning to experience. It looks like a political thing. It looks like a natural human thing. This is much more than just a natural phenomenon. This is a spiritual phenomenon expressing itself or manifesting itself in a natural way. Yeah, any questions about that before I go to Janice? Go ahead, profound one.
Is there anything to the idea that Bernie Sanders is running against greed?
In order to end racism, the people who perpetuate racism must end racism. Because the ones who it's perpetuated against have no power to end it because you can't change people.
Right.
Right? So, it takes the ones who are greedy to run against greed in order to bring greed to heel or to an end or to balance things out. We as a people do not control wealth any place. Wall Street controls the wealth of the world. The whole world. And it takes someone who is representative of that group to do that. So the answer to your question is very significant. And it's also significant that a womb is running in order to birth a new era of greed. The seed of balance has to be inseminated into this womb the womb of greed, in order for it to produce something right. You got me? Because America's greedy. Every one of us greedy. There's something in every one of us that wants that we want stuff.
Well, it's an extension of me.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's almost like if one point is the center of all greed, and you begin to move out from that point, it reduces exponentially. But the faintness of it is still there.
Oh, it diffuses into
Yes.
other things. You can't see it so clearly, but
But it's there.
it's all back to the who's in charge, the ego, or
Yeah.
even if my ideas are good, it's my ideas that are good. In fact, I just read an article, maybe, I hope related to that, and I didn't keep it.
No worries.
That what's happening on campus now is a lot of people there's a lot more activism and sort of left liberal leaning, if you want to characterize it. But at the same time, there's a growing intolerance within that to listen to any other views.
Yes.
So there's a seed within that could create a different chaos down the road, right? So now you have, what, the tyranny of the right, not that side, but the correct,
Yeah.
over those who could be changed, but hey, let's just throw
And
them
we
out-
must
throw
bring
them out of the
balance to
room
that.
instead, right?
We must, the Yale situation.
Yeah.
We must bring balance to that, so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When the young lady declared
They fired-
a press-free area. No, about
No, that was-
the costumes. It was Halloween
Well,
costumes.
you
or
can
something.
pick 4 or 5
Yeah.
places that get all confused, but the essence of it was the sort of, somebody stood up and said, no, don't do this, and then, but it was, I don't remember. It's just
Yeah,
the last-
it was like the people who were
You get to pick one.
quote unquote liberal were saying that if you don't believe, because you don't believe like we believe, we don't want you in this area.
Right.
That kind of thing. And we who recognize who we are the balance in all of this. And again, I cannot reiterate it enough. This is not about politics. This is not about who votes for whom. This is not about who's black, who's white. This is not about any of all these things. This is all about light being brought from darkness. That's what this is about. This is about bringing order to chaos. And it is no coincidence that religions are beginning to merge. It will not surprise me if we did not see a strong push from the root of Christianity, the root of Islam, and the root of Judaism to come together and bring an end to what is seen as these huge divisions between Christianity and Islam. Would not surprise me at all, because the desire to survive supersedes the desire to self-destruct. And that's what things are now. On the other realm, and I'll explain that later.
I just have a question about where does the woman the black woman professor at Wheaton College that was dismissed, ultimately dismissed because she wore the hijab to class, and then she said Muslims and Christians worship the same God, and then she was dismissed. Wheaton is a Christian college.
Yeah, I know, I wouldn't.
How does that all fit?
Truth was put out to pasture by the darkness. See, we have been taught that the Muslims worship a different God than we, because they call that God Allah. It's very difficult to fight ignorance. It's difficult, and especially difficult to fight ignorance when you have illiterate ignorance. And illiteracy to me is not just you can't read a book. Illiteracy to me is that you cannot.
You won't read.
You won't. Yeah, I like that. I take that. You won't read the book. Or neither will you actually analyze what's being said. And when you say that Allah is a different God than the Christian God, that is pure ignorance. That's just like the redneck in Mississippi with 2 teeth in his mouth living in a cardboard house saying, I don't want the government to help me, but where my food stamps, I know I got a chance to be rich like Donald Trump because I'm in America. And he can't read a book. That's the kind of ignorance that's being battled. It's difficult to deal with that kind of ignorance. So what do? You don't do it. You don't do it in a setting where it erupts into an argument. You do it in a place where the ignorance is not aware of, and that place is the other realm. Think about it. I can stand in the church and say that there is no difference than the God who's in the Bible and the God that's in the Quran. Those words are the same. And all of the arguing comes. I say in the Hebrew is Elohim, in the Aramaic is Allah, in the Arabic is Allah. All those words are the same, and all of them are Semitic languages. All of them are. They're the same. And I will get an argument, no, it says God. Well, the word that you call God comes from a German word meaning a gut, meaning good. So if what you call God is nothing but good, then we got a problem. So what happens? I lose the argument. And the reason I lose the argument is because the people sitting in the pews have been indoctrinated to the point where they are afraid to challenge what's in the pulpit. And what's in the pulpit is there because they can't do nothing else. It's popular to be there. So the way we deal with that is to put it in the macro and allow the questions to be asked as opposed to giving answers before they're asked. It's just, I'll give you another example. When in 2007, when Obama was running against Hillary, I got a phone call from people who said, we were told, and this is totally illegal, to stand in the pulpit and endorse somebody.
Hmm.
Totally legal. You lose your 501c3 status for doing that. But they told me that they were told to support Hillary. That's what they told me. And they said that we got all these signs to put in our yard, but we think you're right. Because I was supporting Obama in the beginning. And I said, put your sign in the yard. When you go in there to vote, they don't know who you voted for. And then if they ask you, say, I got the sign in the yard. You still in line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did. And he won by 20 points. So what I give you that example so you can understand the fear.
Mm.
The fear that's there. Think about it. That's pure fear. Why could they not say, you can't tell me what to do? You can't tell me who I should support.
I had a phone
Y'all
call.
would do me like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you would disrespect me?
I had a phone call the other night from some lady whose name was Hannah, saying she was a fellow teacher.
Asking
And
for you by first name.
She wanted to know who I was going to vote for in the primary. I said, that's private.
You know what I would have said? Who's running?
And then I said, then she said something like, well, we're supporting Hillary and we'd like you to support Hillary. I said, well,
Thank you.
thank you, bye.
I'll go back to watching Scandal.
You're nicer than I am. But you understand what I'm saying? So it's not a fear like I'm scared you're going to beat me up. It's a fear of being disconnected, disassociated, of being excommunicated. That kind of fear. It's a fear of not, of being shunned. That's the kind of fear that exists. And with real leadership, there are no fears of the leader.
Well,
It's respect. You see, because if you fear me, you'll do anything when I'm not present.
Mm-hmm.
But if you respect me, then we're on the same page. You see, because some things you would want to do, you won't do it because of the respect.
Right.
That's leadership. Leadership is not elected. Leadership is not appointed. Leadership is molded in the cauldron of pain and suffering and put on the mountaintop of peace and suffering. That leadership does not come from the human, because the human does not recognize what leadership is. It comes from the other world. And leadership is, the effective leadership is not based upon how many votes you get or how many people clap their hands when you speak. Leadership is based upon how effective you are in invoking change without anyone realizing who did it. Leadership, the leader's name is not on the billboard. It's not. Martin Luther King spoke. Abernathy organized. Most people don't know that. He was the logistics man. Without the logistics man, it wouldn't have been no march. You see what I'm talking about? I had the hand. Was it you? You raised your hand?
I just raised mine.
Somebody raised one. Wait, Richard.
No, I was just going to comment. To me, leadership is about, it's not about keeping you, at the core, a lot of this is a sense of survival, I think. And real leadership doesn't tell you it's going to do things so that you will survive. It doesn't focus, it doesn't look backwards, if you know what I mean. It's looking forward. And that's where the real strength and movement is. And you deal with situations as you move forward. So the quote-unquote leadership that would have you, that would protect you from what's over your shoulder is in it for another reason. That's my sense of it. I mean, that's just too, whatever.
Well, leadership shows you how to
260s.
survive.
It gives you something to live for, so it's
Yeah.
a genuine thing, right? And I think that's part of what's going on between Bernie Sanders and Hillary. He's talking about, and a sort of analogy you can say, I think these debates have been very good because they're pushing him to be a little more descriptive and tell you how a little bit. Because he's coming, you could sort of say, more from a honest sense of heart and feeling. And the hesitancy I have anyway about Hillary is she is very sophisticated at wordsmithing, answering to the subject. But where's her real heart?
How do you be Secretary of State and not be?
Does she have a heart?
You got to.
She got a heart,
I
but
don't think
I
gives.
mean, how do you do that? You can't. You can't be a diplomat and not be
Don't gives
worship.
it.
Gizzard.
well, the question is, who owns you?
Yeah.
Are you fulfilling a role as a diplomat, or is that, have you now become, you know what I'm saying, that person?
Right.
Not that I had to do that because that was my job, it was what was expected. The difference between you and the thing you gotta do sometimes.
And I think that speaks to
That's
all
not
of
gonna go
us.
away.
To all of us. We are not what we do, we are who we are.
Right.
And that's a whole different.
It is.
We are not what we do. Because if we are what we do, and I think we mentioned that last week, if it's my job, what happens when I get terminated?
Yeah.
Joe's no more.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So if it's mine, you can't take it. But for me, it's for me.
Can we talk about the role of the Black Panther? Like,
Did I miss? Was there a Beyonce discussion I missed?
no, I'm just bringing it up
Oh,
now.
okay.
I waited till you
Sorry.
got here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So can we talk about the Black
What
Panther
you wanna
movement?
talk
What's happening with that?
Still have your beret in the closet.
I got a black one, yeah.
It's only about 10 hours,
10 what?
Black Panther.
Left?
The new Black Panther. They put a handful of them. There's no clear ideology there. It's built, trying to build on something that did not exist. And the thing that did not exist is that they were a violent group of people. They were not. The Black Panther never killed anybody. Go to Chicago, look at the Fred Hampton thing, when they killed Fred Hampton in Chicago. Not one bullet left that house, all of them went in. And they said that he had a shootout with the police. How can you have a shootout with the police and you not shooting? Black Panther didn't kill any policemen.
Mm.
So they built on a legacy that didn't exist. It was created by the media. And the reason I can sit here and say that so definitively, because I knew them. We worked with them. I didn't particularly care for their attitude because they treated women like they were ornaments. If a woman had a question, she had to tell him, he asked the question. So I didn't particularly like to fool with them. None of us did, really. But when you look at what they did the breakfast program in Harlem. That's where they started it, in Harlem, and then it was usurped by Bush, but the Black Panthers actually started it.
I thought they started in Oakland.
I'm talking about on the East Coast.
Oh, well, I
Yeah,
know it
where
from,
Huey Newell's did start it.
I knew it from California.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were doing things that,
No one else was doing.
but the whole thing was the dangerous thing about showing up with the rifle and the weapons, even if they weren't gonna use them, you know? I mean, look at, and I've always been fascinated with the difference, just between Malcolm X and what he could do. He could bring 200 organized men into the street, no weapons, but somehow it created that
Yeah.
sense of control and whatever. And then you had the Black Panthers with the weapons and stuff, and you could see, in a way, X's thing was much more profound to me. The other was more dangerous because it was flirting a little bit too much with the kind of fear that people allow authority to come in and blah, blah, blah with. And I'm not talking about what all the other stuff behind it. 'Cause you
Oh,
could
so
say,
hear this.
But
He's
that's-
absolutely right.
and
If white folk being afraid of black folk with guns, but the same people who are afraid of black folk with guns walking through Walmart with them now.
Well, look at Oregon.
It's legal to walk through Walmart. It was legal to have a shotgun. But black folk couldn't have a shotgun. The reason that the law in Texas was as stringent as it was against owning firearms is because after slavery ended, they were afraid that black folk were going to seek revenge.
Yeah.
That's why they were passed. So what's happening here is you look at an era when it was legal to have a weapon and a black man had a weapon, openly had a weapon. Now all of a sudden it's dangerous. When a white man has a weapon now, it's not dangerous. Yet he can pull a weapon on a federal agent and go home.
Well, he's a responsible gun owner.
There you go. So if your skin is the wrong color, you're not responsible. So these are the things that appear to be political. These are the spiritual manifestations of separateness that grew from, for this cause shall a man leave a womb and cleave to his feminine energy. What did he do when he is the word cleaved? Cleaved? Anyway, one of those. We're stuck to.
Even so.
To his in energy, right? The feminine. What happened then? When, for this cause shall I separate from the principle, basically, of a womb and cleave to the feminine energy. If I'm doing it, the masculine, now I manipulate it to be what I want it to be. And that's the sense of separateness that plays into what we just described with the weapons and everything else with racism, politics, etc. All of these things are the same principles. And what happens, I shape it and mold it where I want it to be, but it comes a time when it goes to the extreme, when I can do anything a man can do, as opposed to there are some things a man is designed to do that I can't do, and a man saying there are some things designed a woman can do that I can't do. We complement each other. That's the bottom line. That complement of each other was not there from the time that statement was made for this cause. And now keep in mind that this separation has been perpetuated forever by Catholicism because the marriage of vows came out of the Catholic Church. And when you stand and do a marriage, and a vow is a binding promise. It is a binding covenant. And when you stand and say, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. That's in the vows, in that little black book. You are perpetuating not only the sense of separating from a womb, from the father, but you're also perpetuating the manipulation of the feminine.
What if you didn't know?
It doesn't matter whether you know or not. Jump off the roof. If you don't know about gravity, you still gonna hit the ground. So it doesn't matter whether you know or not. If you say it and accept it, it functions, and you don't recognize that it's functioning.
So how do you correct it?
We're doing it now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing it now. Bring it back to balance. See, if you notice, and most of you in here have been to a wedding that I've done. I don't use that. I don't use that. The vows or the promises that I write pertain to the people who are being married. Only them. And no two are alike. Because no two couples are alike.
Nobody's in the same place,
I was thinking about this the other day and wondering about the fact that although the Bible gives a lot of references to marriage, it uses a lot of metaphors about marriage, compares a lot of things to marriage, but there's nothing in the Bible that says how two people should get married. There's no like marriage vows or anything. So I'm just wondering why.
Ain't no wife in the
No.
Bible. There's no wife in the Bible. There's no marriage in the Bible.
So why not?
Mary's not in the Bible.
What about this finding a wife business?
Huh?
What about this he who finds a wife business?
It's a woman. It's talking about feminine energy.
Mm.
That's what it's talking about.
What are you asking? Where did marriage come from?
No, I'm asking, why is there no,
Because the
no,
There's no ritual, there's no...
foundational
no
marriage
ritual?
prior to Catholicism is predicated upon man. Man determines what marriage is. Man, God didn't do that. The Creator didn't do that. Man determines what marriage is. And marriage as we know it today came from Catholicism.
Yeah.
And the way it is done comes from Catholicism. Everything is based on quote unquote Christianity as we know it.
So, well, I guess my question is then, because there is no definite ritual for that, so then we are allowed to do it the way we deem necessary?
Yeah, because this is the thing. We are in this earth realm, which is the tree of knowledge and good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
This natural realm, that's what it is. If we are going to do what we are supposed to do, we in this room, we on the phone, we in this, cover, under this covering, portend to be the people who wants balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that being the case, we have to recognize that where marriage came from and begin to do it based upon what is pure and righteous.
Okay.
Now, when I sit to write vows, it's based upon righteousness and purity. Not righteousness and purity for you,
Right.
but for those who I'm doing it for.
Right.
Balance. Now, if I sit to do it and I see this, if there's a struggle, I find out why there's a struggle, I come and say, you ain't supposed to be married. And I've had people to tell me, well, we want to get married. I say, okay, now I want you to understand something. We can stand here and do this, but you're not supposed to be married. Some people need to do this in order to find out they shouldn't do it.
Right.
And truly, I've been down that road with some people who came to me and showed me, we talked about it. So, what I'm saying is this. Everything that we do has to be done with the desire for the result of purity. The desire being purity and righteousness. Why? Because we are in the process with every breath, with every step, with every thought, with every projection. We are in the process of bringing the tree of knowledge and good and evil to a place where it is the tree of life. That's what balance is. And we cannot do that if Betty wants to get married and I see that this is not the right thing, and I go ahead and do it and fool her like you doing the right thing, and by saying like, it's not right, you don't have my blessings, you want to do this thing, you're asking for trouble. Now, I tell her all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do it? That's your business. Let's do this. But if I didn't say that and I see it, I'm still in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I'm still building on that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, I see the same thing when I do the counseling thing, right? Yeah, I agree with you, babe. One time enough for me. When I do the counseling thing, I see the same thing, because what happens is I have had so many couples to come to me, and the one who is usually uncomfortable about coming to me is the female.
Hmm?
Because they have been to other ministers for counseling, and he takes his side.
Okay.
And the first words out of my mouth are, it does not matter how well I know you, right is right, and that's what I'm going to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, the dude end up not liking me because I don't agree with you. You're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I saying? If I sit there and pretend that right is wrong and wrong is right, I'm perpetuating that sense of separateness. I am manipulating the feminine energy as opposed to bringing balance. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, I've had someone come to me and they were so nervous about talking until they could not sit because they had been badgered by him, first of all, and they had been to so many ministers, and all of them says that you need to work through this. That you're not supposed to divorce, and all this. If you're not supposed to divorce, if it's a sin to divorce, and you believe that you're going to hell for divorcing, what the hell you do? I mean, why are you in the church? If you think it doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this person was so nervous, and then when I just listened for a few times and listened, and finally I said to him, "Let me dress it up clean. You're a fool." But some other stuff before that, fool. And if you continue to put up with it, you're worse than this. All of a sudden, he upset with me. I don't care. This is the truth of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
Then I heard you call me and you give me all the, and I say, you know what? Don't even call me no more until you get some sense and some other stuff. Click. Why? Because males inherently manipulate females, or at least try. And I'm not going to stand for it. I refuse to be a part of that. And the funny thing about it is this. This is not because of what I see in the scriptures. This is not because of what I've grown to understand, about life and about feminine energy. No. This has been with me from the beginning. I have always stood against that. I have a friend who was messing with somebody for one purpose only, and standing right there in front of him, I told her, this is the only thing he wants with you. And she didn't want to believe it. He couldn't deny it, because we were close. But that's how I have been. Not because I'm such a goody two-shoe, it's because it didn't feel right. I was ready to understand, don't do anything to a woman that you wouldn't want done to your sister. Treat the woman the way you would treat your sister or your mom. That's me. I don't want nobody to manipulate my sister. You push my sister, you get slapped. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I am thoroughly convinced that my feelings about those things did not just come from an upbringing, but it came from the other realm because I am here to do this. I was brought here to do this. I was brought here to nullify. For this cause shall a man leave his father. I was brought here to nullify that. I was brought here to bring a sense of understanding to the extent that we see balance is impossible without a complementary relationship between male and female. It's not improbable, it's impossible without the understanding that complementary relationship. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And if I cannot have a complementary relationship with the one here, Phoebe, if I can't have a complementary relationship with you, then I cannot teach the idea or the concept or experience balance. It's not going to happen. If this is not my toy, you are not my toy. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
This is the reality of spirituality. There are those who say that you're not talking about Jesus. Yes, I am. Mary Magdalene was his balance. She complimented him. And if you read the book of Thomas especially, you will see how she complimented him. And see what happened is, in all the infinite wisdom of the Catholic Church, they turn out to be dumb. Because they left the part in the scripture in John where it says, and Thomas said. If Thomas said it and Thomas wrote a book, how come we can't read Thomas? Huh? If Mary Magdalene was considered one of his disciples or followers, and Mary Magdalene wrote a book, how come we can't read it? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it would be a different story if we said one of the books of the Bible that was taken out was the book of Evelyn. Well, Jesus ain't saying that about her. She wasn't there. I mean, so it doesn't make sense. We have, and to perpetuate that sense of female dominance, we got nuns and priests. The nun can cook, can bake the bread, but the nun can't serve the bread.
Communion.
Yeah, she can bake it, but she can't serve it. That's crazy. Audrey can prepare the communion, but she can't serve it. She can be the president of the pulpit aid club, but she can't come in the pulpit. That's crazy. That's a perpetuation of for this cause shall a man lead. You understand? That's all of these things are a perpetuation of that. And look at the balance that's taking place. You have Obama and Michelle. Now you got, as one in the White House, right? The only family I ever thought I'd live to see in the White House that was black was the one working there. Well, I guess they are working. But anyway, when you look at the change in the midst of all of this chaos, right? What do you see? On the side of pure, unadulterated greed, you see absolutely no female at all. The Republican side. Carla Fiorina did everything she could to be a man. She talked like they talk instead of just being a female. She had the leg up because her dad and Nixon were friends. And her first job was executive. So don't play with me. I read. Look at the other side of the equation. A male and a female. A seed and a woman. You understand? This is no coincidence. These things are there for a reason. And there has to be someone present in the earth to articulate this. It was no coincidence that I got calls from my friends in D.C. like, okay, what are we going to do about this? How can we handle this? We need to talk about this, that kind of thing. And the things that I discussed with them and said to them are things that they're in the process of being instituted as I speak. And all of them are not being instituted based upon physical stuff. They're being spiritually instituted as well. So anyway, I guess the bottom line is this. The bottom line is, until we embrace the understanding or the reality of what separating from father and mother actually means, until we embrace that and desire beyond everything else to bring that to a ending so that it can revert to what it was in the beginning, complementary, balance, we can never be as Jesus was in the earth. and he functioned as Elohim. When they said that something you're God, he said, so you say.
Mhm.
He did not deny that.
Right.
Some say you Elohim. So you say. He didn't deny. So that's where we are. Any questions?
Can I make a comment?
Let me think about it.
While you're thinking, they were saying, I don't want the world to think we disrespect you. Too.
Go ahead, girl.
I don't want them to think. But Gail, I don't know her last name, Gail King, Oprah's friend. She interviewed both the president and his wife, and they said it has never happened like that before because they would interview the president separate from his wife. But by them coming together, I thought about that, the complementary. They do complement each other.
Yeah. And see, the other thing is that when you look, I'm glad you brought that point out. They do complement each other. And you can cool believe that there are groups out there who've been searching for something.
Oh, have to be.
They're looking for anything.
Have to be.
Anything.
They had almost 8 years to look. I
And
know
can't
they've
find
searched.
nothing.
Yep.
Nobody came forward and say, I did it. He did it with me. Nobody.
Nobody.
Couldn't find nothing.
Oh, man.
The balance there is an example of what existed before for this cause. You do not see him trying to overshadow her or she him. They complement each other. Her whole push is nurturing. The nutritional, the exercise, the thing.
Yes.
Let's be strong. Let's be healthy. The nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
His whole push is fathering, provision, protection. That I'm not talking about the daddy of the country. That's not what I'm talking about. That's that myth with George Washington. I almost said something awful about that. I'm talking about a spiritual manifestation of balance. If indeed that's a spiritual manifestation of balance, and I do believe with everything in me that it is. If you take 1:20:17 and add those numbers, it's 11. So the exodus of this is a gateway into what it represents. This is a foundational year. A foundational year for exposure, a foundational year for embracing that exposure and seeing it for what it really is as opposed to what it appears to be. Donald Trump is not just the greedy man. He is all greed.
Well, he looked like it on the outside too.
He's all greed.
It's terrible.
Ted Cruz is not just representative of intellectual arrogance, inundated with ignorance. He's not just a representative of that. I mean, there's not that. He is a representative of that. That intellect can get you any place you want to be if you speak the way, or speak the things that people want to hear.
Intellect can be amoral.
Amoral,
Say it
right.
that way.
That word right there, amoral.
It's just,
And that's what he represents. And when you look at Rubio is nervous. He
That poor thing.
doesn't know whether to stand up or sit down.
he is the backup quarterback who's never been on the field, who's been told, next quarter you go in.
And he's
And
like,
he's like,
oh. But that, I mean, think about it. He is very nervous. And has the poorest handlers in the world.
The what?
Poor handlers
Oh,
in the world. So what are we looking at here? We are looking at representations of the seed that perpetuates chaos. Think about it. You got these dumb people believing that you go build a wall when the same people who came across that border is building your building.
They gonna build a wall.
Over there on 13th Street, 13th and Penn, where the old post office building is, go over there and see who constructed that hotel that Trump owned. Who you think helped him get that building?
There may be a lot of tunnels under that wall.
I mean, think about what I'm saying to you.
They're good at tunnels.
So these are representative. They are representative. Actually, the ones in Mexico, the Japanese engineers built them. They paid them to build them.
The tunnels?
Yes. The tunnels and the submarines. Where am I? Oh, keep in mind that these things are representative of what's being manifested from the other world. We can't see it for what the newspapers say it is. We have to see it for what it really is. This is what changes things. We are agents of change. That's who we are. And if we see it any different, we got a problem. And there are no setbacks. There are events that we didn't anticipate as humans. So we just deal with it and keep it moving. There are no setbacks. There are no opportunities to be missed because we have determined that we won't miss. So there are no opportunities to be missed. Here we are,
2016.
waiting for nothing, but doing everything we can by virtue of simply focusing. I was talking to one of my friends last week, and she was talking about, she worked with teenagers, and she was talking about her telling them how they need to be cognizant of what they say because words are real and they bring things into existence. And I said to her, well, that's one of the issues I have with other people because that's what I teach. That words are energy, and we create our own world with this energy. And the energy of the words is no different than the energy in this lamp. It's just the function is different, and the orientation of it is different. And she understood everything that I said, but she goes to a traditional church. So where's it coming from? You see what I'm talking about? Where's it coming from? This is what I believe. Well, let me say this. Then one of my friends who says church is a bunch of whatever. He does not go, don't fool with him. He'll go take pictures for him. He'll go on a retreat. If his wife said, let's go on a retreat. And then come back and say, what we learn? Nothing. So we were sitting there talking, and he says, and I said that, I made the statement that prayer is meditation, is introspective energy, it's not words. And I quoted the script that talked about the heathen think prayer is multiplying of words, right? And he said, that's one of the things I've been trying to say to them. Prayer ain't what you say. If prayer is what you say, if a building falling in, start praying. And see, won't you die? Prayer is the action you take. The prayer is you recognizing what's happening and being able to deal with it. It's the energy that you recognize. Dealing with it means helping everybody else in that building understand what's going on. I'm sitting there like, because prayer, God, Jesus, to him, it's like it was back in the day. You know, we used to, Jesus saves
Mm-hmm.
at Riggs National Bank. That's what he said. But that's what that, you know, why? Because we saw no benefits from it for the people.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
I mean, the tornado in Mississippi, we go to the churches, they say no. We go to the school, we raise $10,000 in 2 weeks and fill up 2 trailway buses with clothes to take to Mississippi because the Red Cross was not helping black folk in Mississippi. We had to do it ourselves. That was our experience with churches. So that's why how he developed his feelings about it. But it turns out that he has a better understanding of what's real than they do. So I said I was going to say that, then I'm going to say something else. However, it has escaped me, so I'm going to leave you. I was trying to hold it, but it escaped.
Another time.
Any questions? Okay, has today made sense to you?
Yes.
That today is necessary for the continuation of this earth. It's not just South Carolina. It's this earth. So, what is it today? Oh, I think South Carolina was the 8th state to join the Union. 8th is new beginning. Interesting. Don't ask me where that came from.
You said 1/2017 is equals 11.
So,
Talk about that a little more. And that means what exactly?
okay, did you add it yet?
Yeah,
72 is 9.
1/2011.
Uh-huh.
17, yeah.
But yeah,
It's 11.
What I'm
You're not
talking,
using the Arabic 0, okay.
what I'm talking about,
0 and 2 is 2.
what,
That's true, I guess. I was thinking 10s and 20s.
plus, you know, the 11 also equals 2, which is man and God. Bet is Allah, is man and God. Bet is also the gateway, open door through which creation came. That's why Genesis began with the letter Bet.
Does that mean it can go one way or another?
The gateway, that's why I said this is a foundational year. Because however the foundation is laid, that will determine what goes through the gate. And it is imperative that we take the initiative to lay the proper foundation. And the foundation that's being laid is one of spiritual essence, spiritual change, spiritual awareness, however you want to term it. But what it looks like, none of us know, don't want to know, don't want to shape it. How do we lay that foundation, I think, is also a question that needs to be answered, or begs to be answered. And the laying of the foundation is recognizing the signs of the times and speaking concerning them, not just saying that they exist, but what do they represent from the spiritual perspective. Not just those things that we term or deem to be good, but also those things that we deem to be bad or uncomfortable. If we sit down and say nothing about what we recognize, and we only, you know how we would go through the scriptures and talk about what each one of the words meant. If we were to sit and just do that, as opposed to recognizing the relationship between who we are and what's taking place, then we would be laying an improper foundation. We would be laying a foundation for continuation or perpetuation of religion. That's not what we're doing. The foundation that's being laid is actually weakening the foundation of religion. That's why you begin to see it in Exodus from religion. What is it?
It took everything I had to hold myself together when a gospel mime was introduced at my aunt's wedding, just because I had not been exposed to that before, and I don't think he meant to be comical, but anyway, I wanted
Gospel
to.
mime?
That was my face, yes, that I made, yes, that right there.
Yeah.
Did you video it? Can I see? What
I did not
is
take a
that?
video. He was performing, or I guess is like interpretive dance almost for a
Well,
gospel
that's it.
song,
But it's called.
but with face paint.
It's called a dance too.
Huh?
They do that.
The miming.
Yeah, he wasn't intended to be a mime.
No,
He's
he had on white gloves and face paint,
Yeah,
and
he
he was a
intended to be
mime.
a praise leader.
That's like praise dancing?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
You
like
Exactly.
can't make the local ballet school, you go praise dance? Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
it was a
Sorry.
thing.
It's just, where'd that come from? All right.
Is there anything, any meaning, anything in Beyonce's Super Bowl performance?
Yes.
You can't tell from the reaction?
You couldn't tell from her? No, yes.
I mean, I've been wrestling with it a little bit.
She,
Huh?
Why? What?
I
Because
read,
I mean, I had my first reaction was, yeah, okay, whatever. But clearly, I'm on the outside, and I'm like, maybe I've just gotten older and I missed a boat or something. But I just,
no, you
I
on the boat,
couldn't-
you just didn't know.
You didn't miss the boat, you just saw another boat.
but
It's
so many
significant
people are.
because if you read the lyrics, it is a generational difference in the way she is saying to especially black females, be proud of who you are. Nothing comes to you simply by being handed to you. You got to work and grind to get it, that kind of thing. The idea of not letting people treat you any kind of way. Now, to me, with my generation, it could not have been said that way. But when I read the lyrics from the perspective of the current generation, it speaks volumes. The other thing that whenever someone looks at something like that and say, she shouldn't have been there because she's racist, Fox News,
Yeah.
she should have been there. Yeah, I mean, it's just that simple.
That's true. We look at it from that perspective.
I think that it had to come through someone like her because she's an icon
Yeah.
to this generation. There are things that that may seem to be distasteful to us, and the conduit through which they come may not be acceptable to us. It doesn't matter how it comes, as long as it comes and is beneficial. It's like the lady praying for the chicken and the man threw it through the window.
This is a thing?
What?
This is not a thing. This is a
Like
thing?
the woman praying for food, the man threw a chicken through the window, and he went to the door and said, God didn't send it. I did. She said, God sent it, the devil brought it. So it doesn't.
Is this a joke or did this happen?
So it doesn't.
It's a scenario. I think.
Yeah.
okay.
So it doesn't matter.
Wow.
It doesn't matter how it comes, as long as it comes. And
Yeah.
honestly,
I was really confused.
honestly, some of the most distasteful things are really the most influential things.
I mean, I'd written it off until I started reading what people were saying and were explaining.
Right
And I was
now,
like, there's no doubt about the fact that the imagery is really powerful. Like,
now
the
that you've
video-
done that,
Yeah.
Google the lyrics.
I'm lost.
Don't
What did
look
I
at them.
miss?
The Super Bowl.
She performed at
I saw her
halftime.
performance.
Oh, yeah, you have to see the lyrics
Yeah.
or see the video that goes with her song.
I
And like,
did.
you couldn't really hear her
Okay, the
singing.
video,
Yeah.
the video
I
that
couldn't
goes,
hear the lyrics.
the video that goes with the song. There was a car being covered by water, like in New Orleans,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
She's on top of a police
She's on-
car.
Yeah. It's Katrina.
Mm.
And all her don't stop shooting us or something like that.
Yeah.
Is one of the lyrics.
There's a
I mean, one of the,
There was like a young black kid in a hoodie dancing in front of policemen with their hands up, and the camera like pans across some graffiti that says "Stop shooting us."
Mm.
She goes through a couple of different periods of history with black women, and it's interesting.
it's very interesting.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it or pay attention until I read what Giuliani said, and I said, oh, I gotta go see this.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm
You
talking
know,
about.
people angry.
Yeah.
He said what he said, now I wanna see what this was.
But that's, so it's powerful imagery. It really is. And I believe that she did those lyrics at the Super Bowl to invoke the controversy so that people would go to the video and see what the video is really saying.
Mm.
Because if you read the lyrics without having seen the video, it doesn't make much sense. But if you look at the video and then read the lyrics, it fits. But again, it is a vernacular of the kids now as opposed to us. And the message is powerful. That is really powerful. I know the first sentence of the lyrics talks about something about you can keep believing in that BS about the Illuminati. It dismisses the Illuminati as being real. That I just dismissed and read the rest of it in relationship to the video, because it's like anything else. There's something you can take and there's something you can leave. You know. So.
I think it was, I heard that the song came out the day before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that was a reason for doing that, because she didn't want them to maybe try to stop her from
Well,
doing that song.
if she had dropped that song 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, they would have canceled her contract.
Yeah,
But it was too late to cancel it the day before.
yeah.
Well, she's a smart woman. I mean,
She married Jay-Z. You think it's like she's smart?
oh yeah, she really has a brilliant mind, and she's not in that place for no reason at all. She's there for a reason.
And that's it.
Yes.
So again, we have to see things what they are. It's almost like if you come to me and say, well, I'm halted between these two jobs, I don't know which one to take. First thing I say is what? Take the money off the table. And then make a decision. With this, I say, take your prejudice off the table. Remove all of your spiritual beliefs from everything. Just lay it aside. And this is the first time that you've seen it, so see it clearly. But not just the lyrics. See the video with the lyrics. Then you see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be very cautious about the eyes through which we see things. We have to see them through the eye and not the eyes, because the eyes are very deceptive,
Yes.
very deceptive. And if you can cool believe, if they had known what was coming, there's no way in the world. Because see, their big thing was Coldplay. But it was like they weren't even there.
You're right.
Everybody knew that was going to happen, though.
They should have.
How do
Especially
you
with the
not
dance.
know expect that to happen?
But especially with the dance off.
I'm just like,
She a kid.
It's like, you here, Coldplay? And she put her arm around and said, okay, we're going to bring you in too.
Felt sorry.
But anyway, we,
I guess, just to be honest about that too, and maybe it's generational, maybe it's something else. If I have still a little discomfort, it's not just that she's, all of what she says, it's just the whole package that says, but she's a businesswoman too. So I'm just, there's a little part of me that maybe is old something that says,
okay,
you know what I'm saying?
let me speak to that.
Because she's gonna pull an awful lot of
Yes.
money
but-
toward her, and I don't have a clue how she uses her money. Not that it's you know, I
See-
can ask the question if I met her, but
This is the thing.
it's just the whole thing about that.
African American folk get to a place where they comfortable, they say what they want to say.
Yeah.
That's what she's doing. She's at a place now where you can't hurt me,
Right.
so I can say what I want to say. And that's what she's doing.
That's what I was gonna say. She's
She-
made
she-
a lot of money. She's in a place where she
Well, I
can
agree.
say
She-
exactly
she's not
what she
open.
wants.
She's not open. Oprah's still cautious about how she say things, how she presents herself. Beyonce's in a position now, and that's always been the case throughout history with us. Bring the boys home.
Yeah.
You know, the lyrics.
She has more power than Oprah.
Yes.
Because even though Oprah has all of that money, if people decide that she doesn't get to be on television anymore, then what happens?
Oprah appeals to white people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at her audience.
Yeah.
Always.
And see, I said, this is my soapbox about her. See, first of all, let me help you to understand. Oprah came to Union. And when Oprah came to Union, everybody in the meeting was telling her she needed to question me because I was the spokesman for the area. She wouldn't do it. Everybody was acting crazy. That's who she went to. And I did an interview at that time with Phil Donahue, and I talked about how ignorant it was on her part to do what she did. Her whole show changed. Now, I said all that to say this. She does what's beneficial to her. Why would you go to Africa and start schools and will not put a decent grocery store in black neighborhoods in America?
Mm-hmm.
I have no qualms about you doing the school in Africa.
Okay.
Not to.
I have no qualms about that.
Mm.
You know, but I do have issues with the fact you got your start in Baltimore. That's where you started, in Baltimore. In a TV station in Baltimore, and the neighborhoods are food deserts. You know this, so why not do something there? Your roots are what, Tennessee? Those are the things that bothers me in terms of what she does. And she, no, don't get me wrong, she's not the only one. There are others out there, of course, but do not present yourself as Miss Black Lady. And you're not doing anything. Don't do that. Do not present yourself as one of the quote-unquote leaders, and you're not doing anything that leaders do.
Does she?
Yes.
No.
I don't feel that she, no, anyway. All I see is that Super Soul Sunday thing. That's what I think of her about.
Who?
And the trouble with
Which
Oprah
one?
is, huh?
Who's
Oprah.
Super Soul Sunday?
Oprah.
Oprah considers
that.
herself a leader. Oprah
Yeah.
came to
Yes,
South Carolina
yes.
to endorse Obama. Oprah was with Obama in Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, she does consider herself
Mm.
a leader and a spokesperson. So you can't have it both ways. That whole concept of leadership seemed to have been lost over the years, but conveniently so. Because some of those who presented themselves as leaders sold out in terms of they would rather get paid than speak the truth. And then there are those who had never led anything who on the backs of everyone else. Now those who came through the civil rights movement, who paid their dues, they pimps. They doing nothing now but making money. They're not caring, they want power and prestige, but they're not dealing with the real issues in the neighborhoods. They're not dealing with the real issues, they are political pimps. And I have no qualms about that. And I want to be on MSNBC saying it.
I know you do.
I
You have
no
to cut
qualms.
your microphone off.
I have no qualms.
Say something.
Go to commercial.
I have no qualms about that. Because if you are real about what you believe in, you stick to it continuously. You stay with it.
That's integrity.
The things that I believe about humanity, that equality and fairness, I am not going to recoil from that simply because somebody threatens my position. If you can take it, I don't have it.
All right.
I did it with the preachers. I believe what I believe. If you can remove me from being a preacher, then God didn't call me nowhere with my words. I don't care. People will tell you, when they put my name on that sheet as endorsing Hillary Clinton against Obama, as primary, I was not there. I refused to go. They put my name on it because they knew what the influence of the name in the upstate. I told them take it off. They said no. I threatened to sue them. That's when they took my name off. Because they wanted my name attached to that. I am true to what I believe. And I have been taught, I was taught as a little boy, if you don't believe it, don't say it. If you believe it and find out that it's wrong, change it. Apologize and keep it moving. If you ain't willing to die for what you believe, you don't believe it. Those are the things that I grew up with. Death has never been a fear of mine. Never.
But you know what strikes me is you go back to the bridge and all that, and you think of where are the stories of all those other people and how they've gone on, maybe with the same integrity but more quietly, just to live their lives. You get used to being pulled to the front. You start to see all the cameras. You know what I'm saying? And then you feel like you always have to be influential.
Well, and
You know what I'm saying? Even to the point where there's no substance left in your words, or you're saying the same thing you said 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? You won't realize that maybe it's the notion I've always had, for example, that all of us at one time in our life would be wonderful teachers, but not necessarily for 30 years.
yeah.
But the way our society's built, you don't get to, you know what I'm saying, just sort of pop up when there's a reason to be, and then just say, that's it, I did my, played my
Well,
role, I did it, now, I haven't changed, but that's very hard to let go of, I guess, I don't know.
But Jackie and Jean and I were talking last week, and she was telling us about a friend who, we were talking about the library, not the library, I'm sorry, the museum, the African American Museum opening. And she was saying that a friend of hers said, oh, I'm going to have a plaque on the wall because I gave $25,000. And I said, he gave $25,000 to put a plaque on the wall. Next time you talk to him, you tell him, we gave our lives and we don't want a plaque on the wall. And then I thought about it later on. I would like to ask him, how long did it take you to make that $25,000? And I'm sure he'd probably say something a couple of months, or even if he says a year. So what you've actually done is donated 1 year of your time, and you think that's worthy of note? Simply because you gave them money? The people whose names are not out there are the ones who built that museum. That's who constructed that museum. I said to Jane, are you going to donate pictures to the museum? I'm like, I don't know yet. It just depends. He has more pictures of what happened back in the day than anybody I know. Of everyone, C.L.R. James, Ben Chaffee, you name them. The people who were movers, who was not in front of the cameras. He has more memorabilia from then than anyone I know. But he doesn't want it to be out there with, this is what Jane did, that kind of thing. We did what we did because it was right. You do what you do because it's right. You don't do what you do because you want your name on a marquee or because you want to be written or be a blurb in the history book. You do it because it's right. It is better to leave a legacy of righteousness than to leave a lie of false integrity. I'm done. Any questions or comments? I don't know who all is on the phone, but we done. So thank you.
Actually, what, I'm interested in, Graham's son coming down here.
Denise, where's this mouse?
What's his first name?
Talking about Franklin.
I think
Franklin.
it's only, I think it's on TV somewhere.
Hey, you're unmuted.
Huh?
Now tell Mom she's unmuted.
Oh.
I wanted to say good morning before everybody left.
Oh,
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't see it.
Good morning.
Good
Good afternoon.
Oh, it's right there.
Goodbye.
Push up.
Bye-bye. Hey, what time is the funeral, Joseph?